So you've decided to be a business coach. Here are the 5 mistakes that you could make that would actually stall your career, for that matter, might even be the reason why you've currently not found any success as a business coach. The number one reason that is most common for business coaches to not find the success that they truly deserve is that they have a lack of personal and professional clarity. What happens most of the time is business of being in business coaching starts with a side project which you might have taken. You might have become a consultant or a coach to someone while you were engaging in your full-time job. And because it becomes kind of a side hustle, you get the party started, but you don't really know where you're going. You have no clarity of what would success mean to you personally, or you have no idea what success means to you professionally. And because you don't have a well-defined success pathway or success destination, what tends to happen is that you are constantly distracted by everything that has been suggested to you by anyone that may or may not have been successful in that clear field. So my first invitation to you is to define what does personal success look like for you as a business coach. Most of us tend to find this so uncomfortable as a question that we don't want to answer it. So my first question or task for you is, what does personal success look like to you as a business coach? What does it look like? How does your day unfold? What is it that you're doing? What is the field that you're working in? What kind of companies or what kind of individuals are you helping? Are you working mostly with executives, or are you working with the founders and CEOs? Are you working with startups, or are you working with trading companies? What does personal success look like to you? When is it that you will say, I'm a successful personal coach, personally for yourself? Because if you don't know that personal success determinants, it will often be that you'll be chasing an arbitrary standard, which will often take you to the wrong destination. And that brings me to professional success. By professional success, I mean, what does success look like to you in context of how much money is good money? How much is an average package price? What size of companies are you really working with? And can they afford your packages? So, who am I helping and what problems do I solve for them becomes the foundation of becoming a successful business coach. This kind of professional clarity creates momentum for you to keep making moves towards the right kind of clientele, positioning yourself as the person who solves the right kind of problems. Now, the challenge really becomes is that when you are in the momentum of building a business, often because of the short-term scarcity and short-term anxiety that you might have about your business, you might get distracted and orient yourself to something that is more urgent instead of what's more important. And this very important distinction of focusing on important versus the urgent really creates long-term viability for the business. See, once you get into the field of business coaching, any business that sees a remote potential in you being able to help them will want to hire you. Business coaching is thriving, and if you blend it with business consulting, you have a great chance of being successful at a fairly short period of time. But often that success comes at a cost, because this cost that you pay for quick success is lack of clarity, lack of focus. And so you often see a great high as you start the business of coaching and business coaching. And at this peak, at this high, what often happens is that because you're so distracted, you get overwhelmed, you get burnt out, you lose direction, you lose focus. And that eventually leads you to kind of stop doing what's really important to build a business, and that slowly creates a decline in your business, often leading it to not being successful. So longevity in business often comes with the focus of who is it that you want to serve over an extended period of time. So ask yourself, what is my personal statement? Why is it that I'm doing this business? What's my personal clarity? What's the kind of work I want to do? What kind of impact I want to make? Why is it that I'm even becoming a business coach? And the second question, the second sense of clarity that you need is, what is the business I'm in? What's the clients that I serve? How do I serve them? What kind of problems I'm solving? How quickly do I solve them? And this allows us to be able to have a clear focus and clarity towards the direction that we will be moving that leads us to the ultimate outcome of business success. The second most common reason why business coaches are not successful is because they try to perfect their offer. See, when you walk through the door, when you go to a business, you have like high anxiety. You're thinking, oh my God, I have this one chance, one shot, one opportunity. What if I miss it? And because of that attitude, what tends to happen is even before you walk through that door, you tend to want to perfect your offer. You tend to go, okay, I need to know exactly what's going to happen in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. Okay, I need to exactly know how much I'm going to price it. I need to exactly know how many hours will I dedicate to this work. And that need for perfection is essentially fear manifesting itself. You don't want to perfect your offer when you're just starting your business coaching. When you're just starting your business coaching, all your attention should go to only one thing, which is how do I solve the problems that I've committed myself to solve for this client? And so that means that your offer does not have to be perfect. If you don't know how many sessions you're going to do, simply commit to doing the sessions until you solve the problem. If you don't know how much you should price, just price something. Somebody who makes enough offers will always outperform the person that offers but perfect offers. This recent thing happened with one of my students. My student was trying to perfect an offer. She was like, all right, I'm gonna tell me if I should do these many sessions. Should I price it this much? Do you think this pricing is too much? This pricing is too low? And I said, hey, listen, I'm going to only answer these questions to you after you made at least 4 offers. Go ahead, whatever you have, doesn't matter if it's a perfect deck, imperfect deck, the colors are off, if your branding is off, I do not care. Send it. Send it to at least 4 people, and then we'll talk about your offer. So she went ahead and sent it to 4 different people. 3 of them actually accepted the offer. One of them is negotiating the offer. So all 4 of them were literally waiting for this client to actually make an offer. And that's usually the problem with most business coaches is they try to perfect their offer, and in that effort they forget what really matters, which is to actually make an offer. If you don't make an offer, it is never getting accepted. So make more offers, as many as you can. Make 100 offers, make 500 offers, and until you get results from these offers, until you get responses from these offers, you actually don't know if your offer works or not. So there is no perfect offer. There are only offers that were made or offers that were not made. The ones that were never made are sitting on the shelf, never seeing the day of light. The ones that were made are actually getting accepted. So go ahead, make an offer. The third most common reason why business coaches don't get successful is because they're intellectuals. They understand too much about the business. They have been executives in companies. And so they have an affinity, they have a love for scale before they get a sale. And that really hinders the growth of business when you're just getting started. You don't want to think about the scale of your offer before you have made a sale in your offer. You don't want to think about the scale of your business because before you've made a sale in your business. When you get started in business coaching, in business consulting, you want to think about how can I get a result to my client? How can I make a sale? How can I get somebody excited that I can actually solve their problems? If you can get them excited about their problems being solved, if you can help them paint a vision of a future self that you can help them realize, you will create the scale in time. Do the unscalable first to test out what product even works. And once you've figured out what product works, how you get a result, then think about scale. Most business coaches, most executives who want to get into business coaches, most entrepreneurs who want to get into executive and business coaching and consulting beat themselves up because they go, oh, that's not a scalable model. I can't really do that at scale. You don't want to do it at scale. You want to first see if it is even relevant to the market. Make that sale first. Do the unscalable first. Once you've gotten some success, scale will eventually happen. You're too smart. You will figure out the scale once you have the sale. The problem is the current fear of not getting the sale, the current fear of, oh, this is not scalable, is leading you to not even get out in the market and figure out if anybody wants the offer that you're selling, anybody wants the solution that you're offering. And because of that, you're sitting on your couch, you're thinking about, oh, maybe I should perfect this, or let me make a system, let me make a course and a program on this before anybody has said yes to working with you. Which brings me to the fourth problem. And this happens with individuals who have done too much in life. They have lived a full life. And because they've lived a full life and they have helped many people in many different ways, what tends to happen is they would go and aim for a very wide and a really broad approach to solving problems. They would say, oh, I was CEO of a company, so I can solve any problem in the business. Oh, Ajit, I played the role of the marketing director. I played the role of product manager. I can solve any problem in the business. Oh, I used to be technical officer, but I've also done coding, so I can really solve any problem for the business. And when you say you can solve any problem for the business is not excited to work with you. And honestly, you are looking for a contract that is 10, 20 years long, and nobody's signing that contract with you when you're getting the party started. Nobody can solve all the problems as brilliantly as somebody can solve some of the problems really, really well. Like you need focus and clarity in your business, you need focus and clarity of what you solve for other businesses. If you don't have a focus, if you don't have clarity, here is something that happens. Because you think you can solve problems for every business, you think every business is a prospect. But when you make every business a prospect, you don't have a clear approach of how to approach business. You don't know which places to go hang out and meet these people. You don't know what to post on social media, and your posts look all over the place. Think about it. If you were an expert of everything and you went and let's say LinkedIn was your channel of creating leads to come work with you said, okay, one of my posts will be about HR, the second will be about culture, the third one will be about using AI, and the fourth will be about great marketing strategies. Fifth will be about finances, and the sixth one is actually going to be about content creation. Who am I talking to? Who's this person? How do I really know what to speak with you about and what problem will you actually solve for me? When you talk about everything, you're not really talking about anything deeply. And then it becomes a further problem if you're talking to tech companies, SaaS companies, you're talking to service companies, you're talking to creators and influencers, and then you're talking to individuals in trading companies. Who are you talking to? They might have similar problems, but the nuances of the problems is what makes you hireable. If you can talk the nuance about my business with me when we're sitting down on a table, I am more interested in talking to you than if you just give me general ideas. So while picking a small market might seem insanely restrictive to you, it becomes increasingly expansive to the person who's receiving that information from you, who's receiving that content from you, who's receiving that dialogue from you. It becomes really valuable for the person that is on the receiving end, and hence they become lot more interested in talking to you. The more you know about me, the more you understand me, the easier it is for me to say yes to working with you. So think niche. Think really small niche. Not even niche as a big category of niches. A niche is, to lack of a better term, is a micro niche, something really small, something that feels like this is not even a market. There's only maybe a couple of thousand companies in this market, or a couple of hundred companies in this market. That market that market will want to hire you. That market will want to work with you because they will know that if you're coming to them with these very, very specific solutions, you actually understand their problems. And because you understand their problems, you can actually solve them. Which brings me to the fifth and probably the most important thing that one needs when they are a business coach, and that I think you will resist the most. And that is, while you might have chosen to be a coach consultant because you want to build a business, have the freedom of time and energy and resources, and if I tell you to go to work every day, you'll be like, that's what I did in my job. Well, that's what is required to be wildly successful. You need the work ethic of saying, every day I get to work. Every day I go and I prospect. Every day I choose to go into my business and create something that is valuable for my business. See, what happens and what tends to be the cycle of a business coach or a business consultant is they get really excited about watching a video like this, or they doing one of our programs like Certified Business Coach. And while they're in the program, they feel really, really, really excited. And they go, all right, I'm going to go prospect. I'm going to get some clients. And as they get the clients, what tends to happen is at this peak, they go, oh, I have enough revenue coming in for the next couple of weeks or couple of months. I'm going to not prospect. I am not gonna not create more revenue. And because of this peak being so rewarding in that moment, you decide not to prospect. But 3 months later, as the contracts start to expire, or the contracts are up for renewal, and sometimes they renew, sometimes they don't, depends. What happens is now you start getting anxious about money not coming in the next month or next 2 months. Now you start to frenzy try to prospect, right? But your prospecting game cannot have such a frenzy environment because you'll always see peaks and valleys that way because you were not prospecting when it was time to prospect. If you have an everyday working schedule, and it doesn't have to be 12-hour days, it could be 4-hour days, but you have an everyday working schedule and you follow that working schedule as if you were going into a job, what it creates is certainty of activity. And certainty of activity usually leads to certainty of reward if the activities are right. So if you are doing an activity, not just scrolling through Instagram and LinkedIn or whatever is your prospecting channel, or going to events aimlessly without any intent to actually interact with different people or the same people more deeply, what tends to happen is that you have no activity that has been sustained over time, so no results have been sustained over time. But if you aim fully with intention, decide that every day I'm going to do this activity, and this activity is going to be sustained over time, even when it's not creating clients, it's creating presence, it's creating depth, it's creating interaction. That consistency of activity that is getting delivered even when there is nothing to offer, even if you don't have to enroll, creates long term results because that activity starts to yield over time. Coaching and consulting is one of those professions where the person who hires you must absolutely trust you. And because they must absolutely trust you, there is a greater likelihood that if you showed up every single day on their feed in one way or another, if you created YouTube videos, if you showed up at events and interacted with them one way or another, that when it is time for them to hire someone, when it is time for you to enroll someone, there will be an inherent trust that has already been built. And because we already trust each other, there's a much bigger possibility that we will actually end up enrolling each other. We'll end up working each other. So don't just work one day when you wake up and then you say, okay, today I'm going to start enrollment. It's an everyday act. Have an everyday working model. Have an everyday work schedule. Because when you have an everyday working model, when you have an everyday work schedule, it is much more likely that when it is time to enroll, you will have clients waiting to work with you. You'll have clients a lot more excited to work with you because they actually understand you and they have actually built a trust bond with you. And now you can enroll them a lot more easily. These are 5 classic mistakes you might be making right now. So slow down and look at these mistakes that you might have made until now and see how we can course correct it. So first thing that you want to invite yourself or think about is, do you have the personal and professional clarity? If not, ask yourself for those. Second is, are you making enough offers? Or are you just sitting back and thinking, I need to perfect this offer? Third is, are you thinking scale before you actually made your first sale? Fourth is, are you aiming too broad? Or have you decided a small niche and you're working with that small market first? And lastly is, do you have an everyday schedule? Because if you don't, it is very likely that you will not sustain the activity that is needed to create a successful business. Coaching businesses is one of the easiest coaching spaces to get into. It's one of the easiest markets to get success and easiest market to get good revenues coming in fairly easily, especially for someone who has had some success in life or has worked with different businesses or people in the past. It is very easy to get successful as a business coach, but you absolutely cannot afford to make these 5 mistakes to be successful.